Hello, everyone. This has been a long time coming. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm back on this channel for the near future because as it turns out, I have more things to talk about than I did in my video on Heaton. And this is one of two drama videos that I have left to make here. So let's get into it. Today we'll be talking about an infamous creator by the name of Just a Robot, who until recently was a decently prominent commentary channel who was sentenced to dwindling numbers ever since he set his heart on being an anti-woke YouTuber who minored in anti-ACC content. Recently, however, Just a Robot, who I'll be calling Jar from here on out, found himself in boiling water when he made a video defending another disgraced YouTuber by the name of CineBear03 over her explicit conversations with and repeated sending of pornography to a minor that she groomed. This video will not be going over Cine's situation in detail, so if you're interested in seeing it covered in full, as well as Jar's original defense of her and what followed, I recommend Harley TBS's 3-part series on the manor, for which I'll have a card appearing on the video now. But if I'm not here to discuss any of that in detail, then why am I here at all? Well, it's because last month, Jar released a god-awful response to all of the allegations and situations brought to light since his CineBear video blew up in the worst way possible. And he very dishonestly spoke about events that my friends in the ACC and I were directly involved in, so now here I am to clear up all the bullshit said and point out how hypocritical and nonsensical everything this man says is. Before that though, I would like to detail a bit of history with Jar, as he's been talking about me for years at this point, and I would like to finally respond to at least one narrative he's pushed about me in specific right now. So my history with Jar stems all the way back to 2020 during a cursed everlasting event known as the Toby drama. The Toby drama, which I'm talking about in 2025, because no one involved will ever be free from it, it will outlive us all, was, to give a brief TLDR, a situation from 2020 in which a creator by the name of Toby Majestic, who had a lot of friends in the ACC at the time, it was a fairly different bunch of creators back then, did and said a lot of stupid things, including in relation to the issue of racism in the forms of several public crash outs. And when criticized by two black creators by the names of Omnia and Zay, known at the time as Kai Weiss, for her takes, she really didn't respond well. What proceeded was practically all of Toby's creator friends throwing for content to defend her while claiming they weren't. At that point, another black creator, Thuman, stepped in to lend support to Omnia and Zay as she felt the two were being unfairly treated by the community. And then Jar appeared with a video collaboration with two other creators, so he could also criticize Omnia and Zay. That video he made was dog shit. I would know. I made a video on it at the time. I would link to that video so everyone could go watch it, but it's been private for a long while now. 3 years at this point. Now, I want to be clear about the contents of that video real quick. That is a woke-ass video that was made during a woke-ass time because I am a woke-ass bitch, and I'm fully aware that the political climate has drifted away from where it was when I made it. We literally had Nazi salutes on the new president's inauguration from his biggest deep-throater. Even with all that said though, the video still holds up in the arguments I made against Jar and the others. Even from a non-political standpoint, the video by Jar I was covering was just cheeks. None of the points made any sense, and the participants were really dishonest in their arguments. And real quick, I'm fully aware that Manga Kamen apologized for his involvement in that video, so I'm really not trying to dog on him here. He's not the guy even saying shit publicly that would put me in a position where I feel the need to defend the merit that my video had, so leave him alone. And also, in regards to the video, even from a political standpoint, I said it was a woke-ass video, but like, it wasn't even really that woke, especially in the stereotypical sense. I displayed zero of the unpopular SJW mentalities in that video and was incredibly compassionate to basically everyone I talked about in relation to the issue of racism, and well articulated for my age. So if all that's the case, then why did I take it down when I was still making videos? We'll get into that in a second, but let's talk about Jar first. It wasn't long after that point that Jar's extremely racist past actions, including using a black Sona to do, albeit less visually characteristic, minstrelsy for a video.
Just a Kang! I decided to reveal my true colors. I, Just a Robot, am in fact black.
as well as other comments, came to light and really knocked him on his ass. And because I was one of the people who made a video on him who was also of the melanated variety, I was asked to talk to him to help educate him on how pretending to be black to say a bunch of stupid shit is blackface and saying that black people using the N-word is hypocritical was stupid. That convo didn't go much of anywhere and ended with him sad and distressed over how being white is really hard sometimes, which I slammed my face into the desk after reading. Since then, with Jar somehow making it off scot-free from all that shit, switched up and acted as though he was innocent all along and was never racist.
You never know for what or when you'll be cancelled. Maybe you were live streaming and you suddenly screamed out the N-word. Maybe you lied about a drama which caused people to dig into your past about other dramas you have talked about. Maybe you're completely innocent and the allegations against you are false.
Nice to see that aged like milk in the summer sun. It will forever be hilarious to me the way this guy crashes the fuck out every time his actions are called out for being racist. With him tweaking that Ponder shares in that sentiment about him, apparently blaming me for why she thinks that. Jar since then has also spoken about my video on him. Well, kind of. He's made these weird, vague, looming threats, including when I didn't even have a platform, in his ACC video about how he has Thuman and I's videos on him downloaded so he'll be able to cover them down the line.
Thuman and Dulu took their videos about me down before I even got to them, but at least I have them downloaded, so that's cool. ArtCC people can sure dish it out, but they can't take it at all.
Which, seeing how he admitted to going after all his detractors from back in the fucking Stone Age, he definitely was planning on making videos on us. He even brought up how all the videos made on him during the Toby situation were taken down, in an effort to prove the case that he's won every drama and has never been on the wrong side, so he must be right in the sinning situation, which... Lamau?
I've won almost every single drama I've been in, even when I was on the losing side. I'm sure people are gonna say I'm reviving the drama, or that I'm doing this for money or something. But even if that is true, it doesn't debunk anything I'm saying. People will more than likely bring up the Toby drama, but last time I checked, every single video covering my Toby video is gone. Every last one of them.
Every last one. Well, that did not pan out. Firstly, I just want to say that it's really funny that he thinks he can intimidate either Thuman and I with the threat of a response. Like, you're not that guy, pal. You do not scare us. Also, real quick, you've gone out of your way to go to my channel for screenshots and my profile picture many times since my rebranding. You know my name is Chuuli, and it's what I go by. Just call me by my fucking name, lest we should all start calling you CEO author again. So, to explain why I actually took down my video on Jar, buckle up. You might remember when I detailed the Toby drama that I brought up 3 creators by the names of Zay, Thuman, and Omnia. In my video, because I was going after Jar, I was defending those 3, particularly Zay and Omnia, as they were the ones being covered by Jar. From this video, I did become friends with the 3 of them, and then Zay, if you know anything about his history, this won't be a shock to you, but trigger warning just in case, went on to literally physically beat the shit out of Omnia when they were in a relationship. So, I don't know about you guys, but when I saw that I had a video on my channel defending a guy who went on to commit domestic assault, and on top of that, I was friends with the person he victimized at the time, I felt it was inappropriate to keep the video up and decided to take it down to remove any association or mention of him from my platform. Crazy line of thinking, I know. So crazy, in fact, that it seems to have completely flown over Jar's head as a possibility. I did not remove that video because I was ashamed of the points made within it, nor did I feel that way about most of the content I had made when I decided to leave my platform. I had 1 billion things going on in my life during the time when I decided to private most and then all of my videos before leaving YouTube, as detailed in my video on Heaton. You, however, are so fucking stupid and self-centered that you think everyone taking down their videos defending Zay must be about you because you were actually right all along and must be more important in our decision-making process than a literal fucking criminal. And you think that Because you're a delusional fucking narcissist, and because you refuse to humble yourself, everyone else is having to do that for you. Let's get into it. So Jar had a lot to say about the events discussed regarding him at VidCon. To give some context of the events leading up to what happened at VidCon, I'll just play a clip from Harley TBS's video detailing the schism in 2023 right before the convention that resulted in them cutting off Jar and Melly Malware distancing themselves from him.
Before I talk about Just a Robot's terrible defense of Cinny Bear, I feel like I need to mention that I am about as biased as I could be here. I hate Just a Robot, which might be a surprise to some of you who've seen our past content together and may have, rightfully, assumed that we were friends. I did too, until he let me know that we were never friends. This response came after I provided him criticism on a thumbnail he made that drew comparison between disgraced YouTuber Spockter and EDP445. I mean, yeah, Spockter was a bad person. Shocker, I know. But he wasn't meet up with a miner for a cupcake bad, and the Tin Can's only defense for this video was that Hopeless Peaches and Lyle Convoy, two people with impeccable track records, clearly, would agree with him. Not to mention that it wasn't just the thumbnail, the actual video itself was just as dog, with the thumbnail just being some icing on the cupcake. After I found out we were never friends, I cut all contact with him, and thank the Lord, I've only had the displeasure of interacting with him when he's attempted to speak to me at conventions, but that's a subject for later in the video.
What followed was a string of incredibly weird DMs that he sent to Mally, refusing to take no for an answer when she voiced that she didn't want to meet up with him, and Jar approaching another member of the group, Pondersprocket, which her recounting of I'll play now.
I don't exactly remember what got us talking, but I was chatting with this older woman who was sitting beside us. We were under this really nice gazebo area down by the food trucks. She mentioned something about her granddaughter really liking stickers, and I was like, oh, I have some stickers, would you like one? After I handed her one of the little triple octopus stickers, she asks, oh, do you have a channel? And I'm like, yeah, it's called Pondersprocket. She thanks me, gets up, and wanders off to go meet up with whoever she came to the con with that day. All done, right? Well, unbeknownst to me, there was someone sitting a little farther down on the sofa she'd been seated at, who, I guess, overheard the name Pondersprocket. So they stand up, walk over, and, okay, I need to fill you in on where we were sitting. I mentioned that we were in this open gazebo area, right? But right behind us was this big industrial fan blowing bubbles from some soft drink booth or something. I don't know. I only specifically remember that because I've definitely got footage from later on of the bubbles floating around us, but also because sitting right in front of this industrial fan blowing bubbles directly past my head sorta made it difficult to hear people. I was already really struggling to hear all of the conversation with that older woman, and she was sitting directly beside me. So this person comes up to me and says something that I couldn't hear, but then I look up at their lips and I recognize the words being said as Pondersprocket. Obviously, the first thing on my mind is, oh, they recognize the name. So the first thing I do is reach into my bag, grab a sticker, and hand it to them. When I did, they, in turn, grabbed my hand, doing a little handshake, and I really struggled to hear what they were saying, but through their lips, it was something like, I've got a channel too. So, taking a shot, hoping I read that right, I asked, oh cool, what's your channel? And they, whoo, like a creeper, clasped their other hand around mine, leaned in, and said, the name of the channel creator I was supposed to be on the lookout for. Another thing that you have to know about me is that I'm not particularly good at hiding how I feel. Like, if I don't like you, you're probably gonna know that I don't like you. I will just sort of blurt things out that are on my mind in the moment. In some instances, that blunt truthfulness is appreciated. In other situations, it does not work out for me. Like the time I told a chronic liar that I didn't believe them. Oh lord, that was an experience. So just try and guess how someone like that would react to a situation like this. Before I could even properly process what this person had said, my mouth screams out, oh god! I don't know what that said to them in the moment, but after I yelled that, again, like a creeper, they squeezed my hand, smiled, and then walked away. And I'm just sitting there like, what the f just happened? Was that real? Did I pass out? Am I hallucinating? Paragon later told me that they were seated in a better position and could actually hear them. According to them, not only could they recognize their voice, apparently this creator was also putting on some phony accent, which just turned into an extra level of this can't have been real. It's too stupid to be real. I'm not usually very good at explaining my emotions. I find that highlighting what my body is physically experiencing in the moment is easier than trying to articulate this nebulous, unmeasurable, unseen feeling. In that regard, I find that comparisons work out pretty well, and after thinking about it for a while, I think an event from later on in the trip helps to adequately explain what this experience elicited emotionally. It was like a cockroach crawling across your hand, taking you by surprise with a disgusting, probably disease-ridden creepy crawly that I'm specifically adverse to because I'm allergic to them. At least that's the best comparison that I could come up with. And some of you might be thinking, oh, that's the funny part. The funny part was the experience. No, the funny part is the context around it. See, 5 minutes, maybe not even that, after this person walked away from us, the other people that we were hanging out with at VidCon came to meet up with us in that exact spot, including the people this creator was looking for. The funny thing is that if they hadn't introduced themselves to me, showing a person who otherwise wouldn't have been able to pick them out of a crowd exactly what they looked like, and they just sat there for a couple extra minutes, they would have had the exact people who were trying to avoid them walk right up to them, none the wiser. I guess doing whatever purpose that served was more important, which is so funny that it ended up being the greatest part of the whole trip. Finding out about the accent later on makes me think that this was supposed to be some means of turning me into the butt of a joke, but I will absolutely take that if it means this idiot missed out on cornering the people who were trying to avoid them. If I can't protect my friends with my physicality, I'll protect them by being a dork. It all works out in the end.
All of this, including what happened in 2024, which I'll get into later, remained private, or in the case of Ponder's recounting, anonymous. That is until it was outed by someone who was not any of the people Jar's antics were directed towards, which is why the story is now public and why we're here now. With all that out of the way, it's time to cover Jar's dishonest, dumbass fucking response to everything. Hooray!
First of all, I'm a little shocked that they held on to this for over a year. Yeah, the ArtCC wasn't planning anything against me, nothing at all.
Go fuck yourself, Jar. There was exactly one video detailing one of your actions from the person it happened to, and they didn't even name you. No one had plans to talk about the fact that it was you or any of the other weirdo shit that you did behind the scenes, because you are legitimately exhausting to deal with, and they all had better shit to do. The reason why any of us even talked about the fact that it was you in that experience was because former commentator Kumo was told a version of events by Lio Convoy, who apparently got that version of events from Jar, and decided to make it a public thing without asking anyone involved if they were okay with that.
Oh, and the entire like art commentary crowd, according to Lio Convoy, apparently he wanted to meet up with like Mally and like Ponder and Streamline.
Why?
And they apparently didn't want to meet up with him, and he just wouldn't take no for an answer apparently. And
is that why he's on like a burning the bridge arc?
Allegedly, he came up to them at VidCon, despite the fact that they clearly didn't want anything to do with him, and he like spoke to them in a fake accent, and then like creepily, spoke in his like real voice as he walked away, and it like freaked them out. Apparently,
dude, what a freak!
Kumo is an interesting character who I will not be blasting into the sun before anyone expects me to. That boy is young, struggles with schizophrenia, and I would say needs therapy and psychiatric help more than he deserves a verbal lashing in the form of an internet video. Plus, he doesn't even have a platform anymore, so any ability for him to cause harm or trouble that he once had is greatly diminished. I'm going to simply leave him alone outside of the times when I have to bring up things he factually did to prove a point, and I think everyone else should too. But I'm a snake, and so are all my friends in the community, so who cares what we think? This belief in particular about the ACC is one that has permeated throughout this whole saga of batshittery, with people like Jar and even people in the comments of videos covering Jar's actions believed to be the case. Now, to be fair, if I put myself in the position of someone who avoids critical thinking, I can see why this idea initially came about, especially with the cursed names of Hopeless Peaches and Creepshow Art being brought into the mix. But when it comes to talking about whether or not it applies to this situation with the people involved, it's literally just not true, and is based on a complete lack of understanding of what these people are talking about. And also, if I may add, trying to condemn an entire community to sharing the same behavior that the worst members, who aren't even around anymore, showcased makes absolutely no fucking sense. Every community would be deemed as dog shit at that point, and honestly, that makes more sense than trying to pretend that the ACC is a special case for some reason. For instance, this is a comment on Beckett's video about Jar, and it should go without saying, but I obviously don't blame Beckett for whatever dumb thing the people in his comments decide to spew out into the ether. However, since I was one of the art girls showcased in Beckett's video who gave testimony, and thus these character critiques are being levied at me, I would like to tackle them head on.
The ArtCC keeps being one of the nastiest places on the internet. I am not defending Jar's take on Cinny or his behavior, but what he said about the ArtCC being full of backstabbers is basically true. All the people speaking out against him now have had issues with him for what seems to be years, but never came out publicly with this info until now, until it was convenient. It's like a pattern at this point. The moment a creator gets a certain amount of backlash, the people they're acquainted with, even the people they saw as friends, dive in like vultures to dig up any dirt they have on that person to make videos, getting tired of seeing the same thing happen over and over again. ArtCC is just full of people who, instead of talking things out in private, wait until they escalate into something worth talking about so they can monetize people's downfalls. The funniest thing is that so many of the people who were interviewed in this video have been canceled at least once too for something they did or said that didn't sit right with the community. Doesn't make their points about Jar invalid, but definitely goes to show how many wonderful people the commentary community is made of. This whole situation should have ended at Cinny groomed a 14-year-old fan, here's the docs to prove it, don't interact with her.
I would like to point out real quick that this whole plotting and scheming narrative shouldn't even be thought of to be applicable to me, as I've been shit-talking Jar publicly since long before this situation, especially because his comments about me started publicly. But also, I don't expect everyone who's had a private issue with him to suddenly plaster it to the public, because yes, he's exhausting. He plays willfully stupid and runs you around in arguments until you just want him to shut the fuck up, as showcased in the call between him and Mally. Because yeah, Mally made it very evident that she did not like him in private and that she wanted him to leave her alone. That's what makes the complaint about us making videos on Jar when the whole shit with Cinny came out makes no sense to me. Who are you talking about? Who is making videos? Where is Mally's video? Stream's video? Thuman's video? The only reason you're even hearing us speak on this situation is because the video you're watching of us giving testimony is on someone else's channel. Do you think we're getting financial compensation for having calls with Beckett? If so, I did not catch that memo. God damn it. But also, at this point, fuck it, I deserve financial compensation for having to deal with this whiny-ass man-child. What's funny to me about this comment is that they are both upset that we kept things private and didn't come forward publicly about these things until it was convenient, but also complained that we didn't handle things privately at all and instead chose to speak about them publicly. You're really driving on the yellow line there, bud, and no one can tell which way. It just seems desperate to paint us with a brush that makes sure there's nothing we can do or say to look like anything but backstabbing snakes. And this is all, again, ignoring the fact that even when Jar was getting decimated, we had no plans to talk about his VidCon shit until it got leaked and fairly butchered by someone who did not have permission to speak about it. We'll get into how I think the whole blaming people for waiting to come forward until they think they're safe to do so is a stupid notion on its own, but even giving it merit, how the fuck are we getting casted as the weird vulturous snakes for deciding to set the record straight on something we never asked to be public and didn't decide to make public? This is, whether intentionally or not, a very victim-blaming mentality that is not cute, and I would advise anyone saying things like this to exercise a little more caution before going buck wild and levying all these insane allegations against people you don't know and don't have the full story on. As for why we're getting singled out so much for it, the answer is misogyny. I don't care. Is it an easy answer and maybe not the full thing? Sure, but I feel comfortable using it after looking at all of Jar's actions and the audience he built, especially when he and his roommate Professor Dreadlock couldn't help but comment on how catty Mally was in their call whenever she dared to stand up for herself.
And eventually I came to the conclusion that the problem was that people would come across this thumbnail and immediately assume I was comparing him directly to EDP, so I decided to change it. Now granted, they don't seem to have the same problem with other clickbait titles and thumbnails about me, but I guess it's one of those rule for thee but not for me kind of things.
I don't know the people who made any of these thumbnails. Why the actual fuck is it our jobs to go around policing how people we have no contact with, no involvement with, and no relationship to on how they decide to present their videos? The people who gave you criticism on yours did so because they were trying to be your friends, and you spit in their faces. The only person whose video on you I or anyone else had involvement in was the one made by Beckett, which is honestly just funny to me and highly applicable considering that autism is your go-to excuse for all your weirdo behavior, bested maybe only by your mention of dyslexia. But honestly, we should have expected this because Jar just has to find a way to present himself as being treated bad and unfairly by the girls. Wah, shut up, oh my god.
But I still thought we were on friendly terms and we would meet up at VidCon. I sent this inappropriate joke to Mal, and she did not take very kindly to it. I should note that I was a bit high at the time. Weed is illegal in Texas, but in California it's very easy to get. But the bigger issue was me constantly pushing to meet up with her. Eventually I told her that I'll leave her be because I had no more plans to meet up with her because she didn't want to see me. Now I did later apologize for this, but unfortunately it came a little bit too late.
Oh, Jar, you know that's not the full story. I know Jar shows the full DMs here and points out the joke where he highlights the fucking lol JK, but there's no doubt that he glossed over the rest of them, including the one everyone found weird that said,
"Okay, but just know I won't be like, bitch, you were too scared to get into call with me? Now you have nowhere to run, and I have a gun."
It's no surprise to me that he refused to address this one because it's the comment that contradicts his claim that he apologized. As when Mally did mention her discomfort over this comment in particular when talking about how he waited her out by not taking no for an answer, Jar straight up accused her of trying to gaslight him. Yeah, we'll get more into that later, but for now, just remember that happened as well as his comment. But for now, what the fuck? What makes things even weirder and creepier in context is how Jar talked to Mally before VidCon, saying things like this.
"I'm going to VidCon."
Oh, cool. Might see you there then.
"Nice. Can't wait for you to see how buff I am. I'm really pushing it at my workout. I want you to run when you see my outline."
I mean, I run from anyone, so...
Jesus fucking Christ. I know it's been said before by other women who have talked about this situation, but to any men watching this who do care about not scaring the hoes and just not putting women off, do not fucking do any of this. Now, obviously, no one of any gender should be pressuring anyone to meet up with them, and if someone of any gender were to approach someone in a group they know doesn't want to see them, even to play a harmless prank, that would still be inappropriate and creepy. However, since Jar is about to, if the genders were reversed, this situation in a moment, I just wanted to preface things with that before going into why the specific context here of a man not listening to a woman was so alarming. If a woman indicates to you or just tells you that she's not interested in meeting up with you, just accept it. Because trying to push the envelope here to get her to change her mind, especially by joking about physical harm you could do to her, and especially after bragging about how physically strong you are, that's gonna scare the fuck out of her. And rightfully so. You've already shown her that you can't take no for an answer, and for a woman, who are on average physically weaker than most men, and statistically more likely to be victim to violence or violation by men, that is going to communicate that you might not take no for an answer in person either. I'm not saying you can't brag about strength or gains or whatever the fuck. I have male friends who are taller and much stronger than me that brag about their strength, but they aren't then pressuring me to meet up with them after I've said in no uncertain terms that I don't want to do that. Now obviously I trust my friends, so I don't believe the aforementioned would ever apply, as even beyond my feelings, they respect women doing what they need to be safe, but the point I'm trying to make here is, be fucking sensible and aware of how the difference in physicality will be perceived, lest you end up looking and sounding like this absolute dumbass.
I was walking around at VidCon doing stuff at different panels. Eventually I got hungry. I bought some ice cream, I sat down to eat it, and then I heard Ponder's voice and looked to my left, seeing that she was sitting right next to me. So I shook her hand, revealed who I was, she exclaimed, "Oh my god," and I walked away. I thought it was funny. Ponder described this interaction as a lot more creepy than it really was, adding things like me squeezing her hand and other stuff like that. Or that I was laughing maniacally as I walked away. I did laugh, but it wasn't until I was inside.
This just isn't true. Ponder never claimed that you were laughing maniacally when you were walking away. That was Kumo.
He showed up at VidCon and with a terrible fake accent and spoke to them. They didn't know it was him, and then he spoke in his real voice and walked away and scared the shit out of them. And he manically laughed while walking away.
I don't know what that said to them in the moment, but after I yelled that, again, like a creeper, they squeezed my hand, smiled, and then walked away. And I'm just sitting there like, what the f just happened? Was that real? Did I pass out? Am I hallucinating?
You can literally see in the video you're showing clips of, if you just watched it again, that she never said that. I'm just curious, which disability caused this fuck up? Was it ignorance on your knowledge of the video you're using clips of in the background? Was it the dyslexia from the 0 words you had to read when listening to the video? Was it the autism?
Maybe it's my autism?
So fucking annoying, man.
She kept me anonymous, of course. A bit odd that my anonymity was important until I was getting bashed.
Delete your account.
I'm confused as to what the allegation is here. It's just a handshake. I didn't put my arm around her and say the N-word. Ponder has drawn my avatar in very compromising positions a handful of times without my request or consent. I want to make this clear, I don't really care how she drew my avatar. If the genders were reversed, what I did would have been seen as no big deal, but what she did would have been seen as a huge deal. The problem with this allegation is I don't know what people are accusing me of. It was just a handshake. People have claimed I cheated on my girlfriend by doing this, even though we got together after this interaction occurred, and I think a handshake is one of the most unromantic things you can do with a person. I don't think this is sexual assault, it's just two hands touching.
What the fuck is the point being made here? Guys, it's okay, I didn't genocide an entire race of people. Who the fuck said you did? The problem with Jar doing this is that he makes no effort to clarify who is actually making these claims about his weirdo behavior at VidCon. Made even worse when the only person whose testimony of the situation he specifically mentions is Ponder's, making the implication that she made these claims. Spoiler, she didn't. In fact, none of us, any of the art girls, or anyone else involved who was actually there at VidCon have ever made the claim that these actions were cheating or sexual assault. And we aren't responsible for policing what the rest of commentary says about it, despite what Jar thinks. And despite that, we were concerned with the story getting twisted or blown out of proportion by some fucked up game of telephone from people who weren't there. The best we could do was give our retelling of events as the people that were there to the public with the labels we found appropriate. That of course being that you're a fucking bitch-ass weirdo with no respect for others' boundaries. As for the cheating claim, this 100% has to do with the way you talk to Mally in the DMs, with your proposition to chat over drinks and joking invitation for her to come back to your hotel room. Now, yes, of course this took place before Jar got into a relationship, but pretending as though the handshake is where the idea of cheating came from instead of his DMs with Mally is wildly dishonest. Also, the thing about the art is just not true. Jar was in contact with Ponder when she drew him in the maid outfit, and he posted it to his DeviantArt. What the fuck does Ponder drawing shippy art of her character and yours have to do with you being creepy to people who have told you in no uncertain terms that they do not want to see you? This attempt to turn attention away from your actions is just pathetic.
I wasn't hunting the others down at VidCon. If I was, I would have just stayed there with Ponder. I knew she was friends with them, and I knew they were going to meet up. Basically, the allegation about me hunting the others down at VidCon has no proof backing it up. In fact, all the proof seems to contradict that claim.
Okay, that's not true. We have the screenshots of you asking Mally for ways to identify her after she repeatedly told you she didn't want to meet up, very clearly insinuating that you were still trying to look for her. You also admit right after this that you were keeping an eye out for Ponder last year.
I sat next to Ponder by complete accident. I wasn't going to pass up on that opportunity.
Very interesting how different the reactions were between us seeing each other. When we saw Jar in the convention hall, we didn't point a camera at him and go up to him. We told each other and left. When he came and sat right next to Mally, Stream, and I outside, we all left. Now granted, I left slightly after because I only realized he was there after those two bitches left me to die. But we still left! But when Jar sees a member of a group that he knows does not like him, he can't pass up the opportunity. Very interesting, very normal, not creepy behavior.
Then there was another allegation about me hunting them down at VidCon 2024. From the video evidence I have seen, the video footage just shows them running or hiding from someone who is allegedly me, but they don't show me in any of their video footage. There's not one single shred of evidence that I was looking for them. Sure, I was keeping an eye out for Ponder. If I saw her, I was just gonna say, "Hey, did you see Akumu's new video on you?" and then walk away. That was about it. If there was video evidence of me running up the escalator to catch them, or chasing them around at panels, that would for sure make me look very creepy.
Why the fuck would we be pointing a camera at you if we did not want to be noticed by you because we were trying to avoid you? Are you stupid? Well, yes, obviously, but beyond that, this is another instance of Jar overgeneralizing what we said he did and obscuring specifics before talking about how he would look creepy if we had evidence for claims that we never made. No one said that Jar was chasing us up the escalator or chasing us around at panels, and him laying the video out like this insinuates that we did, which very conveniently works out for him when he boasts about how there's no evidence for those claims. I'm just going to use a clip from Harley TBS's video talking about Jar to show what was actually said, as they have the most detailed recounting of this situation.
Fast forward, 2024, VidCon again. I crossed with him in the convention hall, and I had the instant realization of, oh shit, he's here. As I recognized him from a photo I'd been sent just a few minutes prior by another creator who let me know that he was at VidCon. I don't think he spotted me here, but an hour or so later I was walking the downstairs hall, and it was there that I scoured the area, met eyes with him, and then my fight or flight went crazy. He was speed walking towards me in the group. I am not kidding when I say this. I, alongside the rest of the group, literally turned around and ran up the escalator in an attempt to get away from him.
You might remember, if you've seen Harley's video on Jar, that they showed a clip of when we spotted Jar in the convention hall, and how aside from Harley, who hid behind Ty, Bored Oranges, one of the only other people whose face was public at the time was hidden behind someone else. Well, that other person was Ponder, and the person who hid them was me.
Oh, really?
Everybody else speaks. It's what it was.
Hide your face. Avoid it. Are you protecting me?
Yeah.
You hear that? Yeah?
Yeah.
That's me. You see, I knew that Jar knew what she looked like, and to avoid him trying to approach her again, which none of us wanted, I hid her out of his sight. Of course, that didn't exactly end up working because he saw Harley and started following us before we ran up the escalator to the creator level, but it was a valiant effort, and as far as he's talked about it, he never actually saw her. And considering he admitted to keeping an eye out for her so she could approach her with some fuck-ass comment that I do not believe was his only intention for even a second, my conclusion is that a win's a win, and I'm goated.
But just for the sake of argument, let's take their word on it. Let's say I was hunting them down at VidCon and chasing after them. Then what was I gonna do when I caught them? Shake their hand again?
Jar, has it not crossed your mind that that question in and of itself is part of the problem? We shouldn't have to wonder what you were gonna do, because it should be basic courtesy to not approach people you know don't like you and want nothing to do with you. Sure, it's not something we can get you arrested or kicked out of the convention for, but we sure as hell can judge you for it, as can everyone else when they see your complete disregard for others. It's that simple.
As much as they say that I'm paranoid, I think they're really the paranoid ones.
What a bold thing for you to say, Jar. Actually, bold isn't the right word. That was fucking stupid. You want to talk paranoia, Jar? Fine, let's talk paranoia. Firstly, this dumbass claim is coming from the dumbass guy who, when talking to Cinebear, admitted he kept folders on everyone, including apparent friends and acquaintances, on how to take them down, even naming the collection of folders he had the Tower of Babel, a reference to a DC superhero comic he clearly did not get the fucking message of.
Like, I have stuff like... on a lot of ArtCC people I've been gathering, I actually have a folder called Tower of Babel. Yes, that is a Batman reference.
I thought that was...
Yes. Yes, that is a Batman reference, and, that's actually why I made the video on Daft Pina, because, like, I looked at his folder and I was like, holy shit, this is a lot.
God.
Since I never interacted with you, I actually don't have anything in your folder.
Sorry. What about a folder?
Oh, okay, you don't get it. Okay, so do you know about the DC comic Tower of Babel?
I don't.
Batman's computer gets hacked by, I believe, Ra's al Ghul, and basically Batman on his computer had a file called Tower of Babel, and in that file was a bunch of folders on each of the Justice League members with, like, a list of all of their weaknesses and how to take them down. Yeah, I have that, but for ArtCC people.
That makes sense why Batman would have that. That's really smart.
I have one on Ponder, I have one on Oranges, I have one on everyone.
Most people in the chat probably haven't read the comic story, but they've watched the animated adaptation called Justice League Doom. Tower of Babel is a Batman story, a Justice League story, where Ra's al Ghul essentially gets into Batman's contingency plans and uses them against his teammates. Now, to Jar saw this and said, this shows that Batman's cool. He's able to take down other members of the League. But the text of it, the point of the story, is that Batman should be ashamed. And he is. Because he didn't check with his friends. He didn't have the trust in them that he could confide in them, that he needed to have contingencies. Because in fairness, they all recognized, yeah, contingencies are a good thing. We have an absurd amount of power. And it can be abused, it can be manipulated, we can be taken control. If Batman was open with his friends, with his teammates about that stuff and said, hey, I'm getting a contingency together in case something goes wrong, they all would have been behind him. But he did it in secret. And did it terribly. And yes, I know, I'm getting there, Vlad. And the reason why it's called Tower of Babel is because the Justice League was splintered after that. So, Tower of Babel, they had a single goal, something happens, it scatters them, and now their goal is gone. Batman was the bad guy in that story. And Jar thought he was the good guy.
Okay, with that out of the way, it's time for something I felt the need to talk about since the very second I learned of it. Recently, Lyle Convoy shared DMs with me from back in August 2023 between him and Just a Robot, after the first year at VidCon, where he can be seen crashing out over Mally Malware's very clear request for him to leave her alone and stop publicly tweeting about their fallout. Lyle tells him that he should simply respect that request, and in response, Jar goes on about how Mally is definitely going to say things about him publicly, before flat out accusing the art girls and their circles of wishing he had the nudes of a 13-year-old on his hard drive. This is in reference to Spoctor, a creator who was found to have the nudes of a 13-year-old long past his 18th birthday. Needless to say, the unanimous reaction to this information has been, what the fuck? This man is so delusional that he is convinced we all wish children were being victimized by him, just so I guess hating him would be completely entirely morally justified to everyone on the internet? Jar, we don't fucking like you. That does not mean we want children to be sexually victimized at your hands. He then elaborated that he thinks if it was between me and Spoctor, they wish it was me. And just headcanons that we're the kind of people to decide between which person we wish was victimizing a child? Jar, if you unironically think that any of us would answer the question, who of these people do you wish had porn of a child with anything other than no one? What the fuck is wrong with you? Get away from me? Then you are genuinely sick in the head and need serious help. I think you guys are the paranoid ones. You were convinced we wanted you to have gotten a child's nudes because we don't like you. This conversation also ends with him stomping his feet like a toddler and voicing how he wants to change the thumbnail back, before turning to Lyle with a, aren't you gonna stop me? Like he's looking for parental guidance.
I feel like out of everyone I've interacted with, Lyle, out of everybody, every single person I've ever interacted with, Lyle has gone to bat for me more than anyone else. And I would have probably listened to him because, like, I'm not going to lie, he did become kind of like a father figure to me.
This is just fucking embarrassing.
Sorry, but I'm gonna keep going to VidCon. I'm not looking for you guys, and I hope you guys aren't looking for me. We can both enjoy it separately.
What a novel concept, Jar. It is almost like you are the only person who has not been trying to do that. From not taking no from Mally, to approaching Ponder when she's alone and refusing to tell her who you are until you have her hand gripped, to bitching about how you wouldn't be talking shit about Mally and her friends if they just hung out with you at the convention, to planning on approaching Ponder again in 2024 and following us in the hall. The only person who has not wanted to enjoy the convention separately is you. Delete your account. Jar can yap all day about how the art CC and the art girls are totally evil snakes who are 100% definitely plotting on his downfall, but at the end of the day, he's the only one who's ever made threats to the girls. He's literally talked about how he can make a video on everyone, including Harley, his personal boogeyman, and put them all 6 feet under. You were literally plotting on their downfall. Also, putting Harley 6 feet under? Yeah, how's that going for you, Jar? You couldn't even mention Harley's name in your response video, you fucking pussy. The threats were also littered all over a voice memo he sent to Mally after the convention when she was, again, telling him to leave her alone.
I would love to respect your wishes and walk the other way, but that video is still up. I'm still receiving comments and harassment over it. Even if you guys take it down, well, it still happened. People remember it. Maybe I could respond to it, but how much hate would you and Linlin get if I did that? To give you some perspective, I responded to Doodle Tones roughly over half a decade ago. I was a little guy back then. She's still receiving harassment to this day. And she didn't say every single person who buys a Harry Potter game is a transphobe. I want to make that clear. Mal, I understand you're new to being a public figure. Everything you say and do, well, it will be brought up. You're not a small person anymore. What you say has consequences. As much as you guys try to gaslight me saying, Jar, you know you're actually the one in the wrong here. No, I don't. I've been in plenty of dramas before, all of which I've won, and I've heard the same lines over and over and over again. Okay, I won't talk about you, if you won't talk about me. Deal?
But of course, Jar accused Mally when she pointed out his clear attempt to intimidate her of twisting his words because of fucking course he did.
My fucking god, I told Leonora what I said, or what I sent, you would twist it into a threat. I fucking called it. Holy fucking shit. Like, all it boils down to is, leave me alone, and I'll leave you alone. Ta-da! Fucking... Jesus Christ. Another day in the art, CC.
He also did the same thing when Mally reiterated in a call following this voice memo that she doesn't like him because of his out-of-pocket messages to her at VidCon. As previously mentioned, when she brought this up, Jar just straight up called her a liar and said that she was attempting to gaslight him about her feelings.
No, you're going into a different topic because you started with, it's funny that you disliked me as soon as everyone else started disliking you. Jar, do you remember what that comment I just sent you was directly after?
After the whole Spoctor...
No, it was after VidCon, when you said some truly out-of-pocket shit about guns and... Jar,
oh my god, you're just gaslighting. You actually don't think that.
Let me finish. You made me uncomfortable. I made it clear I did not want to see you. That was it.
And I didn't come see you.
Ignoring the fact you were looking for me at VidCon, which was, again, deeply uncomfortable, the reason I don't like you, Jar, is because... you say shit to me that makes me uncomfortable. I don't care about your relationship with Lynn. I don't care about your spats with Harley. I could give less of a fuck about your relationship with anyone else in this community. You made me uncomfortable, and I don't like you. It's that simple. Questions?
You uncomfortable? You started it. You came at me with my whole Spoctor thing, telling me to change a fucking joke I made, and then suddenly... you didn't want to see me at VidCon. No one wanted to see me at VidCon. You all turned on me at the same time. And I just think this sounds plain. And I think you're making up the whole you made me feel uncomfortable thing because it's an easy out.
And I think you're paranoid. What of it?
Someone tells you that you made them uncomfortable and you call them a gaslighter, making up their discomfort as a quick out? No fucking wonder you can't keep a job and felt it necessary to avoid the women in your workplaces.
I've actually lost, jobs because of this, making jokes like this. Sometime and after a while I started avoiding female coworkers, and then I started avoiding coworkers altogether because I was just like, what's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong?
Can anyone seriously look me in the eyes and blame anyone for not wanting to deal with this man? He's fucking deranged. Keep in mind that this call took place after Jar already went back on his word in showcasing the exact mentality he said he wouldn't have with Mally at VidCon when crashing out to Lio Convoy. At this point, I'm just wondering, did you have a gun? Also, too scared? You can't even fucking get into those voice calls you talk such a big game about without being white-knighted by your roommate. Shut the fuck up.
But my question to that, because this tends to be your immediate response whenever I have critiqued anything to do with the thumbnail or the video, is to say that Lio and Peaches approve of it. Why would I care?
I thought you were close to those two.
I am friends with them, but we do not share a brain cell. Again, my opinion was not based on committee. I don't care if Lio and Peaches like it. I don't. So why do you keep telling me someone else's opinion?
You want to take this one, Dread?
So, okay, here's the thing, right?
We're not even done here, because those threats I showed in the voice memo, those weren't all of them. One of them he specifically had to cut out because it was so bold and brazen that Lio Convoy told him not to fucking send it. But thanks to him, we now have the original voice memo with that threat.
I've been in plenty of dramas before, all of which I've won, and I've heard the same lines over and over and over again. I'll happily go away and do my own thing. but you have to promise me you'll leave me alone. And don't ever act like you're the victim in this situation. You guys do not understand how much I've been pulling my punches.
So yes, Jar recorded that all and took out the part that Lio said to take out because it was such a blatant, unveiled threat, and yet tried to make Mally seem crazy and disingenuous for recognizing the threatening tone and sentiments in the words that were left in. That is what we call gaslighting, you stupid motherfucker!
Disgusting.
Well, I think that's the VidCon stuff sorted. So let's move on to Jar's response to allegations of him sending and requesting inappropriate material with minors. Yay! So yeah, Jar has been accused of being inappropriate with minors, ranging from him getting a kid to draw NSFW of Jaden animations for him, to him sending fart fetish porn to a minor as a joke. Now of course Jar denies he had any idea about the ages of these people when sending and requesting material from them, but before we get into all of that, I would like to posit that in all of the research I've done, I've noticed a fairly worrying pattern about how Jar talks about underage teens. One thing I feel isn't brought up enough, and something Jar hasn't responded to, is how he admitted to not being able to go to public pools because underage 16-year-old girls might show up and he won't be able to stop himself from leering at and daydreaming about them, causing himself to get an erection.
Here's the thing, Cinny. I do think what you did would have gotten you permanently canceled if you had a penis. Like, if a guy did that, it would not go over as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, can I tell you the worst part about being a guy?
That you have to pay extra for mayonnaise?
No.
Sorry, that's... Oh god, I missed Jack. Alright.
Okay, so I'm at the pool, just relaxing. 16-year-old girl shows up in her bikini. I realize I have to get the fuck out of there right now because, like, I'm not going to be paying attention. I'm going to daydream. I'm going to look in her general direction, and then suddenly a situation is going to happen. So I realize, like, whenever I see a 16-year-old girl in a bikini while I'm at the pool, I'm like, whoop, time to go home.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I don't even have a quippy one-liner for that. I'm just... oh my god. It's really interesting that Jar hasn't responded to or brought any attention to this at all. I'll just say that. Jesus fucking Christ. As far as things go for other claims that Jar has responded to, it's still really bad.
Now, some people, like Ghost Cato, have tried to increase this allegation all the way to a grooming allegation. No wonder why Just a Robot was so eager to defend Cinny. Skullface, pedos of a feather, flock together, IG. Where did they get the pedophilia from this? Jaden Animations is the same age as me. It's not like I was asking for sexy artwork of that anime VTuber Shark Girl or anything like that.
I'm going to assume that this is a certified dyslexia moment because Goat Cato very clearly labeled him as a pred and not a pedo, which are not interchangeable words. Jar's response would make sense if that was the case, but Goat Cato was clearly talking about how the act of knowingly asking a minor that is a fan of you and your big-ass channel to draw NSFW for you, as the testimony stated, would be predatory, even if the NSFW is of an adult or adult character. So now Jar just looks stupid again, arguing a point that was never made. Yay. Something I also haven't seen brought up much is his accusation against a child who was messaging him of trying to honeypot him, as in intentionally trying to lure him into catching a case and not just a literal child infatuated with talking to a creator that they may or may not even be attracted to, God forbid.
Like, listen, I had a 14-year-old like, hey, I want to make you, I'm a big fan of you, and I want to make you hoppy. And I was like, no, I know where this is going. This is a fucking honeypot situation. No, thank you. Not dealing with that shit. Just talk to 18-year-olds or older. Like,
it's just so fucking weird, especially coming from the guy who said drawing NSFW of 16-year-old characters in anime isn't drawing NSFW of kids because they're not kids. They're 16, old enough to drive. I don't know. It's all horrible. There's a lot of patterns of thinking that I see going on that I do not like in the slightest. But we're not done, because even though that's all really bad in my opinion as far as responses go, Jar, after thinking he's debunked everything, goes ahead and lays out the stupidest victim-blaming logic imaginable.
Know what else is a bitch move? People coming out with allegations against me that if they released at any other time wouldn't have been taken seriously at all. If you think these allegations are half as damning as you painted them out to be, then you should have released them way sooner.
Oh, okay, since we're having to tackle this dumb shit-ass take again. So it's no surprise to me that Jar has beef with the prospect of people wanting to come forward about actions done to them by a public figure until they feel it's safe enough to do so. I've been subjected to his dumbass complaints about it myself. I spoke briefly about it in my video on Heaton, but Jar has publicly, in 2023, made jabs at me and my friends Clown Teeth and Pondersprocket for our abuse situation we dealt with at the hands of Faghost.
Oh yeah, Faghost, you know that Ponder won't out people all too well. Like, didn't you make up a story about you sexually assaulting 2 trans women, which pushed them into committing toaster and bath or something? And then Ponder, Dulu, Icy Hazard, and a few other people just kept their mouths shut about it for the longest time? Yeah, that was a weird thing that happened.
This is of course discounting the fact that I was a minor when I was fed the lie by Faghost, and that the lie was of something in their past, while one of the girls taking her own life happened during us being told the situation, with Faghost threatening to do the same immediately after to a group of people where that threat worked because the act had just fucking happened with someone else. And this is never mind the fact that I was stalked and threatened over keeping silent about this lie, which I was made to believe, until I cut Faghost off before making the expose video, and that I knew if I did so, Faghost would retaliate and try and turn people against me through their mental state and lies, which they did. Yeah, suddenly when the situation is spelled out with information publicly available at the time, Jar's actions as painting us as knowing enablers staying quiet for shits and giggles, I guess, is really highlighted for the bad faith, dumbass victim-shaming take that it is. Go fuck yourself. Also, yes, this video came out before the first VidCon, meaning that after Jar pulled this shit, he went and actively antagonized one of the people he just got done victim-shaming. Even outside of his actions towards me, this take is still extremely victim-blamey when Jar knows damn well how he and his audience treat detractors. Not only has he, as showcased previously, been known to threaten to take down people he doesn't like, but has been transparent about how the method of him doing that is his dumbass audience that he is very much aware will harass his detractors for years, as mentioned in his cartoon villain monologue to Mally Malware. This is also ignoring the fact that a lot of these people mentioned were minors at the time of his inappropriate actions, and it should go without saying that minors don't always recognize when they were treated inappropriately until they grow up and gain more perspectives and life experience. I didn't even know what had happened to me until I was an adult, because the behavior I dealt with from adult men was so common that I thought being sexualized and degraded in front of groups of people as a joke must be normal. It's fucked up, Jar, and your shit takes on this topic prove that you're in no position to ever speak about this stuff again. But honestly, the main reason why this mentality is so funny and so stupid coming from him is that he spent so much of 2021 and 2022 benefiting from the behavior he's bitching about being directed at him now. You see, Jar made videos back then detailing events in his life dealing with the old DeviantArt ranted community and the creators in it from almost a decade prior, and even begged Calimara to boost one of his videos about it as a birthday gift. And in it, he says things like this when criticizing a friend of mine, Clown Teeth, who was known back during the DeviantArt ranting era as Icy Hazard.
Now if you guys seen my video on Icy Hazard, you know just how unbelievably stupid she can be. Also, I will admit, I did make a lie in that video. I said in that video that I never heard about her until I made that video. I lied because at the time I didn't want her to find out who I was, or anyone to find out who I was.
So Jar is allowed to have reason and justification for not revealing his true identity with a content creator he deems to be a bad person, and also reason to keep his mouth shut about all these super mean, disgusting bullies for nearly a decade, but no one else is allowed to take time and reflect on his actions to others and ultimately decide to come forward when they feel it's safe to do so. How convenient. I would also like to mention that in his criticism of my friend Clown, he conveniently forgets to mention that the dumb take she had was made when she was a literal 17-year-old, and instead just marches ahead with the criticism against her as though she currently believes in it in the present day.
There was a moment when Icy Hazard said, "You're a grown man and Jinx is only a 14-year-old girl." And I said, 14-year-old girl? Interesting. So was Princess Elizabeth 013, to which she said, "Well, not every 14-year-old is the same." Yeah, Jinx doesn't have autism, and Princess Elizabeth does. Icy Hazard, you're a fucking moron. If Geeky Girl Heather, who's in her 30s, can go after Princess Elizabeth 013, then I can go after Jinx if she's lying about me.
What a good faith manner of going about things, Jar. I guess this means the "it was a long time" argument doesn't apply to all your past racist comments and actions that you did as a grown-ass man. My friend Clown has a video coming out sometime in the future detailing the history of that whole fuck-ass community and has plans to talk in detail about Jar's antics both in and regarding the situation long after. So I suggest you keep your eyes out for that. I'll definitely be promoting it. You guys kept your mouth shut about Fagos. You guys should have come forward about me sooner if you think I'm that bad. You kept your mouth shut about who you deemed to be horrible people and let them run around with tens of thousands of subscribers. So either cut the shit and recognize that this is a dumbass line of thinking that you're only switching up on because your morals are entirely conditional based on how much they serve you, or shut the fuck up, stupid! Delete your account. So those are about the biggest situations I was interested in talking about that I felt I had the most to say on, and I'm glad to set the record straight on all the bullshit he's been spewing, especially about me and fucked up things that happened to me when I was a kid, so that's nice. Will Jar learn from this? Probably not, and I don't care. If I had to sum up this creator in just one word, it'd be embarrassing, because that's all Jar is and will ever be if he doesn't grow the fuck up and act his big age of 30. The best part is he's so brazen about puffing his chest all the time and presenting this fuck-ass Giga Chad image of himself. And I legitimately can't tell if it's out of pure delusion or if he thought he would never be caught, and I can't tell which is more embarrassing. Like him boasting about helping people like Mally's channel grow and taking responsibility for her notoriety, while conveniently forgetting that just a few months prior he was begging to be let onto her podcast because his numbers were down and he needed a boost. Embarrassing. Him admitting to getting fired from jobs because he can't help making cock jokes to the women in his workplace, all while continuing to be an absolute weirdo to practically any woman cursed by his presence. Embarrassing. Him crying about how others should have come forward years sooner if they actually believed the things he did and said to them held any merit for condemnation, all while having a two-part video series detailing wrongs done to him by creators from almost a decade prior, including an argument he had with a then 17-year-old that he still hasn't gotten over. Embarrassing! Him trying to present himself as this bold, intimidating figure that people are too scared to debate when he can't even handle calls with other people without having his roommate white knight for him the entire time. Embarrassing! And, of course, how could I forget? Him admitting that he chose to solve his insomnia by having sleepy time calls with a woman facing predator allegations, effectively drifting off to dreamland via groomer ASMR, who he also joked about his cock with. What can I say except, say it with me now, embarrassing! It seriously makes me wonder how the fuck he lasted this long. And then I remember what would happen literally anytime the dumb fuck got criticized. I know it's kind of a meme to see his behavior and imagine that his roommate and girlfriend are just imaginary friends because there's no way real people could put up with him, or that if they are real, everyone feels bad for them because they must be trapped. But I actually have a much more cynical view of these two. That being that they're enablers. Firstly, we have Professor Dreadlocks, Mr. My Roommate Loves Debating, as proclaimed by Jar. Your roommate is stupid and annoying. Shut up. Sorry, just had to throw that out there. Dreadlock is the physical embodiment of trying to reach the word count on an essay with the help of thesaurus.com, all with the attitude of, actually, and that's why absolutely no one I've spoken to likes him in the slightest. Professor Token is not an innocent party by any means, and has contributed to Jar's antics behind the scenes several times. And while his girlfriend has no public platform or alias, need I remind everyone that Jar claimed in his original Cine video before all the backlash started, that his roommate and girlfriend both agreed with the horrendous points made in it, and only didn't want him to upload it because they didn't want him to fight for so long like he did in all those other dramas that he's won. So yeah, that's where I stand. Time and time again, I have seen this man get coddled for his dumbass actions by not only his audience, but his friends, basically all of which at this point have wisened up and dropped him. every single time I would see the refrain of, "I don't think Jar's a bad person, I just think he's ignorant." And my response to that is, I don't fucking care! And the excuse for ignorance has long since run dry on its deserved merit. I would understand if Jar was a lot younger, like a decade younger, or if these were rare or first-time occurrences, but Jar is in trouble for saying dumb shit all the fucking time, and every time he's had ignorance, autism, and dyslexia to fall back on like it's his holy trinity of excuses. None of the aforementioned are excuses for the harm he causes, for the misinformation he spreads, for the narratives he twists, especially not this far into the game. Being a commentary YouTuber is 90% research and reading. Both are integral to this path that was apparently Jar's aspiration for a full-time job. If you're not responsible enough at your big age to handle your platform with the bare minimum amount of care and due diligence, then you shouldn't fucking have one. As a friend of mine once said to you at the wise age of 17, you're a grown-ass man. It's time to act like it and take some accountability for the heaving car wreck in flames you've become. TLDR, be better or fuck off and delete your account. Wow, okay. That was fun. Shitting on Jar, while infuriating because you're forced to think about how stupid he and his actions are, is always a good time. But as with all good things, too much of it is a bad thing. So this is probably it for me on Jar Talk, unless he comes out and says some more truly stupid things about me or situations I was involved in. But until then, and speaking of truly, I would say catch me on the new channel, and you should. But before I get back to posting over there, as I said in the beginning, I have one final video to make here on Nezzy Monster. Yeah, it's about time I make a video detailing all that they have done to mostly me, but other people they've hurt as well. So if you're interested, stay tuned to see how they befriended my abuser, Faghost, long after their actions were exposed and toyed with them about coming back to their platform, and then tried to paint me as an evil, jealous ex when my Heaton video came out because they're currently dating my ex-boyfriend. And more things to come. It's gonna be a ride, so strap in. Until then, which will hopefully be very soon, have a good day, everyone. Bye!